Hi everyone, I hope you're well. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes at Nimisha and Otis's amazing Indian Hindu wedding, which I photographed last year at Nunsmere Hall in the UK. If you haven't photographed an Indian wedding before, I think you're going to find it really interesting to see this behind the scenes because, well, to put it simply, Indian weddings are just incredible. There is so much going on, so much colour, excitement and emotion all over, and for a documentary photographer like me who loves capturing emotion, happiness, laughter, all that good stuff, Indian weddings are the dream. Now this is going to be the first video of two that I'm going to do on this wedding because I'm going to be splitting it up over two videos. This video will cover Otis's incredible arrival. He arrived at the venue on a horse with some drummers. It was so cool, as you'll see, together with Nimisha getting ready. And then in the second video, I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of the incredible outdoor wedding ceremony that Nimisha and Otis had, and also the bride and groom portraits. The thing which was so nice about this booking is that Nimisha and Otis, who were just honestly just the nicest couple that you could meet, they asked me to photograph 4 separate events for them: an engagement shoot, their civil wedding ceremony day, Nimisha's Sangeet, and also the Hindu ceremony as well. So I got to know them well and build a genuinely really nice connection with them, and that was really lovely. So firstly, we met up for their engagement shoot. This was the first time I'd actually met up with them both in person. So we met up first of all for a drink before then spending a couple of hours walking and chatting and taking photographs as we walked. And for me, when it comes to engagement shoots, as much as I enjoy taking photographs for the couple, they're really about, for me, getting to know the couple, and I feel as though that can always then pay off on the wedding day itself, and that I felt was definitely the case with Nimisha and Otis. So next up was the civil ceremony day at Rookery Hall in Cheshire. This was a more traditional style UK wedding day. Now unfortunately the weather wasn't great on the day. I don't think it actually stopped raining the whole day, but that didn't stop it from being a really fantastic day to photograph. I photographed quite a few Indian weddings now, I've been very lucky, and in the UK sometimes the civil ceremony is held on the same day as the main Indian Hindu ceremony. But it was really nice, I thought, how Nimisha and Otis decided to separate their two ceremonies and have them in different venues on different days. Next up, a few days before their Indian wedding day, I photographed Nimisha's Sangeet. Now, if you weren't aware, the Sangeet is basically a big pre-wedding party, and what a party it was. All of Nimisha's family and friends got together and had a really amazing night. It was such good fun to photograph. And remember, this isn't even the wedding day, but the Sangeet really ramps up the excitement for the wedding day, which in this case was just a few days after. And then came the Indian wedding day itself, one of the absolute best wedding days that I think I've ever photographed. So the video that you're now seeing was all recorded on a GoPro camera, which was mounted on one of my 2 cameras. I always have 2 cameras when I'm shooting. The day started, as you can see here, with Otis's arrival, and this was one of my favourite parts of the day. It was just amazing. As you see, Otis rode a horse as he and his family made their way to the front of the wedding venue, where they will be greeted by Nimisha's family. As I say, Indian weddings are absolutely amazing because they're so full of colour, noise and excitement, and I think that is really illustrated at this point of the day. Now, as this was a large wedding with so much going on, I was joined on the day by my friend and amazing wedding photographer, David Stubbs. Some of the photographs which you are seeing now would have actually been taken by David. We both used Sony A9 cameras, so when I was looking back at photographs for this video, I don't actually remember exactly which were mine and which were David's, but that really doesn't matter because on the day we worked in exactly the same way and as a team. So it's quite nice actually, I think, that I'm unsure about who took some of the photographs because that just shows, I think, that we work quite well together. And except for the bride and groom portrait, which you will see later, David and I photographed the whole day in a documentary fashion. In other words, we're just capturing everything exactly as it happens, as if it would if we weren't even there, without us directing anything. That's how we both love to work. So as always, bodies on a wedding day. I was using two Sony A9 camera bodies at this point. One had a 16-35mm 2.8 lens attached, and the other had my 85mm 1.8 lens attached. I usually only shoot 35 and 85, as you probably know if you've seen some of my previous videos, but as this part of the day was a little bit more unpredictable in terms of where everything would happen and how close I'll be able to get, I decided to go with the 16-35mm just because it gave me a little bit more flexibility, because I could shoot wider if I needed to. Now what I also hope is that from this video you can really get a sense of exactly just what a brilliant day this was to photograph. And also, as you may know from one of my previous videos, which I'll link to up here, I'm a massive believer that getting in physically close to the action gives photographs, especially documentary photographs like this, just so much more life and impact. And that is exactly how I and David both approach photographing this wedding. Basically, in my opinion, the closer you are, the better your photographs are going to be. And that was why I shot most of the day on either my 16-35mm, as in this section, or my 35mm, together with the 85. Now I know that it can seem quite strange if you haven't tried this approach before in terms of getting in close. It can feel like quite a strange and alien thing to do, and you may be worried that people will be, won't like you doing that. But a thing which I hope you really notice from this behind the scenes video is that literally no one minds that both myself and David are quite close, because we're not asking anyone to do anything, we're not asking them to look at the camera. In fact, we're actively hoping that they don't look at the camera because we want to appear invisible. We are purely capturing everything almost as if we are guests ourselves, and for me anyway, I don't think that the photographs which you're looking at now would have anywhere near as much impact as I hope that they do if we were stood further away using longer zoom lenses. Especially for this part of the day, I think it's really good to be up close. So my advice, if you're ever photographing an Indian wedding like this, is just get in there and enjoy it. Now, Indian weddings are full of tradition and important moments, but I have to be honest and say that I don't really know the meaning or the symbolism behind a lot of these traditions. But again, I just capture everything as well as I can, because the way I see it is that weddings really are about people and the connections between those people. So as long as you're keeping your eye on what's going on and you're looking at the connections and you're reading people and you're looking for the moments and the emotion, it almost doesn't matter if you don't really understand everything that's going on, because you can understand enough to know where the important things are and to capture the emotion, which ultimately is what weddings are all about. Now, I love this part of the day in particular. Otis has to make an offering to Nimisha's family in order to be allowed into the venue and marry his bride. This is all done, as you can see here, in a really fun way. And again, it's just absolutely brilliant to photograph. All these traditions and events make Indian weddings such brilliant days to capture. Now, as you can see here, Nimisha's family were not making this easy for Otis in order to get in, and I think it cost him quite a lot of money in order to be allowed in, but I know it was worth it. Again, I'm stood very close to everything at this point on my 16-35mm lens. It was important as well that I had a wide lens at this point in terms of the focal range, because the 35mm lens, which I would have normally been using, just wouldn't have been wide enough to capture everything from the point that I was stood. And as I say, when it comes to weddings that are very fast paced like this, you have to be very reactive, and it's not always easy to know in advance exactly where everything will happen and where you will be standing. That's why I say the 16-35 worked particularly well in this situation. So once Otis had been allowed into the venue by Nimisha's family, I went upstairs to photograph Nimisha getting ready. Now, unfortunately, as all the behind the scenes video was taken on my GoPro camera, and I only had a limited storage space, I only captured a little bit of this time on video, which is coming up in a second. But here are some of the shots that I took whilst Nimisha was getting ready. So when we pick up the video here, Nimisha was almost fully ready. At this point, Nimisha was just having her final touches done in the bathroom. So because we're in a bathroom, I shot these images on my 85mm lens at 1.8 to really blur out the background. As I've spoken about in a previous previous video all about reflections, which I will link to up here, shooting into the bevel of a mirror like this can give really cool effects. Again, for this part of the day, I'm working in a completely documentary style, trying my best to be invisible. And one of the things I absolutely love about the Sony A9 camera which I use is the electronic shutter, as that allows me to shoot in complete silence. And I find that to be such a massive bonus when shooting documentary images like these. Once Nimisha is ready, and as you can see, she looks absolutely incredible, I pinched her for a couple of minutes just for some very quick natural light portraits. This is the first time in the day when I'll be setting anything up, but I think it's really important to do this just to ensure that you get some really lovely portraits in good light. Now, even though I love using off-camera flash, it really is hard to beat natural window light. So I spent a few seconds preparing this area before asking Nimisha to come over. Now you'll see here that I photographed my own hand in the window light first. Shooting your hand like this is a good time-saving trick, as it means that you can quickly get your camera settings where you want them to be before calling the bride over, and it just means that you can then be really efficient with your time. Now when Nimisha came over, I took shots on both my 35 and 85mm lens. Having two cameras on you with two different lenses at the same time means that you can very quickly take two different looking portraits. Once I had these portraits, I then spent a couple of seconds to create a couple of different images. Firstly, I used my phone to create a reflection of Nimisha before going slightly closer to her and shooting Nimisha from above with my 35mm lens. The flippy screen on the Sony A9 makes taking shots like this really easy, but this is a shot that I wouldn't have been able to take on my old DSLR because it would have been impossible to see the back of the screen. These window light portraits would all have been taken within a minute or so. So it just shows you that when you have good window light, you only need a very short amount of time to create some simple yet really nice portraits. And with that, it was time for us all to leave the room and go down to the ceremony. So just before we went outside in readiness for Nimisha to walk down the aisle, I very quickly took a couple of pose photos of her on the staircase. I knew from speaking to Nimisha and Otis before the wedding day that they really liked this staircase, so I thought it was well worth spending just a couple of minutes setting up a nice portrait shot. For this shot, I underexposed the whole scene and used one single off-camera flash, which was positioned on the landing up and to the left of me, as you see on the video, and the flash was directed towards Nimisha. I put a magma grid on this flash as well to limit the spill of the light so that it was more or less only hitting Nimisha. Now again, as I often say, when you have a setup like this which works quite nicely, it's always good to take a couple of different compositions. So as well as taking a full lens shot, I also moved a little bit closer for a second shot. And both of these shots were taken on my 16-35mm 2.8 lens. So that's the end of part 1 of this behind the scenes video, but part 2 will be coming soon. And as I said at the beginning of the video, that's going to include Nimisha and Otis' beautiful outdoor wedding ceremony, the bride and groom portraits, and also a video from Nimisha and Otis talking about what they thought when they first viewed their wedding photographs. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. A massive thank you to Nimisha and Otis for letting me use their photographs and make this behind the scenes video. I really appreciate it, both of you. Thank you very much. Thank you to David for being such a great help on the day and the fantastic images, and thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.